pleased to have Brendan McGuckin with us. He's currently in a position of nutritionist to the Fermanagh Senior football team. Look, Brendan has a wealth of knowledge here tonight. Use that knowledge, ask questions. Okay, don't leave here tonight, folks, going, oh, should I ask that or should have done that. But look, what's going to happen is Brendan's going to do a short wee presentation, but to maximise Brendan here tonight, ask questions, and we'll have that bit of a Q&A session at the end. If you have questions that you want to ask, just put them into the chat box for myself, or for the fellas, you can text my number and I'll ask those questions later on. Or if you want to ask a question yourself, just put up your hand. But look, without further ado, I'd like to thank Brendan for taking the time out tonight. We really appreciate it in Fermanagh. And over to you, Brendan.
No problem at all. Thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Brendan McGuckin, as Sean said. Everything else is lies. And I'm just going to talk to you a wee bit about food. But most people call me Brendan. I am working with the lads of the county. The information that I'll share with you tonight is the same information that they get. And we'll not hang about. Why am I here tonight? I have studied health and nutrition for 20 years. I'll share my screen here. I have a master's in performance nutrition with the Institute of Performance Nutrition over in London. And with that, it's delivered by practitioners in sport. So it's elite athletes and their nutritionists. It's Olympic teams. So the information that I'll share with you tonight is not telling you what to do. It's about stimulating your critical thinking. As Sean says, it's about getting you to ask questions. I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do, how many grams of protein or what supplements to take. I can tell you all that, but that's not going to really benefit you. Tonight, like, we could get into the weeds. That is a metabolic map. So whenever you drink, whatever you're drinking now or whatever you had for dinner, that's what's happening inside you. If you want, we can zoom in and explain all of them wee links, but that's not going to benefit anyone. Your body looks after that. So let's not overcomplicate things. Let's keep it as simple as possible. We're going to make it look as much as we can. My screen has just froze like this. So it's food on a plate. It's eggs and it's bacon and it's a pizza now and again. It's maybe a protein bar and a coffee on the run. So tonight, I'll tell you who I am, where I'm from, where I get my information, what the elite athletes do, how to fuel performance, what you put on a plate, what's the basics, the big rocks that you need to focus on. They're key. You can't build a 3-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom foundation or a skyscraper. So the key fundamentals are always the key fundamentals. The specifics, there's no point talking about specifics and supplements if they're filling holes in a bad diet. We need to make sure that the key basics are in place. And I'll leave you with those key principles to take away. So it's evidence informed. Everything that I'm sharing with you is based on the research. Now, it's not just based on research. Yes, this is what the research is saying. It's kept up to date every week, every month with the latest research that's coming out. And there's so much coming out in nutrition and athletes because there's so much information on training and RPE and auto-regulation and loads and periodization and mesocycles and macrocycles and sprint times and distance and GPS. There's all these different things. But did you have protein in your breakfast today? How many meals do you normally eat? Why are you craving at 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening after your dinner and you're eating biscuits? I'm here to make this evidence information practical for you on a plate. And this is the information, as I say, that all the elite clubs are using. So it's the Olympics, it's the rugby teams, it's NFL. I had the pleasure of being with COVID and lockdown. The Olympics didn't happen, which isn't good. But elite sport was on hold. So all the nutritionists worldwide put together a conference and I was able to get in on it, which never would happen normally, nor would a lad from Northern Ireland get to be involved. So I was able to sit down on it. And what are these people talking about for these elite athletes that you see on TV? It's Liverpool football, it's England rugby, it's Irish rugby, it's Olympics, it's NFL, it's world boxing, it's cycling teams. This is what they're focused on. I'm starting at the end for those that maybe don't have a lot of time, maybe have to run on, or maybe don't want to listen to some guy waffle about food. That's completely fine. I get it. I want to get some information over to you. Think about protein in every meal. It's not just about building muscle and wearing tight t-shirts. It's not going to damage kidneys or make girls bulky. Protein shakes are not harmful. They're actually a byproduct of the food industry. So it's technically a food, but we'll cover all of that. Protein's so important, and we'll cover why. Get as many different colorful fruits and vegetables into you as you possibly can. That's the one key thing that you can start now. So when your mother or your granny tells you to eat your veg, you better listen, because at that conference that I was at, there's a guy who has spent the last 25 years. He's from the Netherlands. He's one of the key protein researchers in the world. And he spent over 50 million euro researching nutrition. And he stood up at the conference and he said, I've spent all this time and money to find out that my mother was right. Eat 3 meals a day. Eat your spuds and your fruit and your vegetables. Drink your milk. Make sure you're getting some yogurt or eggs or bacon or something for breakfast. It's basic stuff. Drink water on a general basis. Look at your pee when you wake up in the morning. What color is it? Are you thirsty during the day, or are you just drinking Monsters? I'm always tired, so I need the caffeine of a Red Bull. Well, why are you always tired? Think about that. If you get your colorful veg and fruit in on a regular basis, you'll not have to drink as much, because that comes with a lot of water. Rice and potatoes is all cooked in water. Pasta, you're getting lots of hydration in there without even thinking. Hydration is so important for cramping, for recovery, for digestion, absorption, and performance. All of these teams are taking a whole food approach, and I'll show you how and what they're eating and why they're eating it and what they're focused on. It's all whole food, because supplements are supplements. They're there to supplement holes, supplement gaps, supplement deficiencies. They're not there to create a diet around. Whole foods come with all the synergistic cofactors that help you digest and absorb of everything else that's in that meal. There's no point eating protein, carbohydrates, and fats if you can't digest them and absorb them. There's no point taking in all that food that your mother's giving out that you're eating too much and you're costing too much because you're not at school. There's no point taking that in if you can't use it properly, if you're looking to gain muscle or lose fat. All this can help you, and it's the consistency. What makes an elite athlete elite? Why do they get sick less? Because they focus on these basics. Because they're consistent with the basics, they show up more often to train because they're not sick and injured. That consistency makes them elite. So this is the exact information that I share with your county team. This is the lads, and this is what they're eating. They eat real food. Yes, they take some protein shakes for convenience, but that's the thing. Supplements are convenient and they taste nice, but they'll never replace food. They contain the nutrients of what we think is beneficial, but there's so many other nutrients. Like there's 8,000 polyphenols. How many polyphenols does anyone recognize? Oh, that's the thing in blueberries, is it? Most people don't know, they just hear the headlines. So don't get caught into that metabolic map or those weeds. This is coming from, these next few slides are coming from that World Conference of Nutritionists. This is NFL football. What do you see? You see fruit and vegetables. You see meat, and you see broccoli and salmon and cherries. Yes, there's a couple of supplements in there, but it's oats, it's fruit, it's potatoes, it's healthy fats, it's tea. There's no Red Bulls or supplements as in protein shakes or creatine or caffeine or stimulants in there. This is Norwegian Olympics. It's meat and vegetables, and you'll see that's an actual diet. Ina Garth is one of the key researchers in the world for nutrition. She is the Norwegian Olympic nutritionist for the whole of the Olympics. This is a diet that she's put together for an athlete. It's oats for breakfast. It's eggs, it's wholemeal bread. I will share all this information with you, and it'll be there for Sean to follow up with you. And keep any questions, send them through, and you can ask. These are calibration plates. Someone has asked about training and non-training days. Now, this is actual plates from Liverpool and Everton Football Club. James Morton, one of my lecturers, is involved with both teams, and this is what they're getting the lads to eat. You'll see that it's chicken and broccoli and sweet potato. Now, there's minimizer, maintainer, and maximizer. So that's maybe someone that's looking to maintain their body weight in the middle, or maximizer, someone that needs to gain, needs a few more calories. There's a fattier cut of meat, but it's meat and vegetables. It's nothing fancy. The minimizer has more vegetables than he has carbohydrate, and he's a leaner source of protein, which is a chicken fillet. But this is ways that you can think about training and non-training days. Protein for recovery and repair. And we'll talk about how important protein is now in a second. It's in all meals, your colorful fruits and vegetables. You'll see there, they have sweet potato and green broccoli. That's orange and green. They're working together. It's digestion and absorption. Then on heavier training days, or after heavy training sessions, or preparing for matches and loading days, you can eat the more carbohydrate meals. That will be a way of you learning about food and your intake. And we'll talk about the importance of carbohydrate and how to use carbohydrate to your advantage. If I'm moving too fast or anything, Sean, just shout. This are, again, coming from the football club. Elite athletes, you're seeing them on TV. They're drinking real coffee. They're making their own coffee. They're not drinking or taking caffeine pills or stimulants or Red Bulls. Probably some of them are, but on a general basis, they're taking real food. There's omelets for breakfast. It's meat and it's rice for lunch. These are the actual chefs. That's the team nutritionist for England rugby on the left-hand side, standing making the lads an omelet. This was England rugby at the World Cup. This is their packed lunch. You know, it's chicken wraps, sushi, but that's meat and vegetables and rice and fruit. It's not science, it's food. It's a packed lunch. It's not protein bars and shakes. It's real food, because they know the importance of all those other cofactors that help them digest and absorb them. And kids growing up and athletes in the academy moving into senior and minor and senior and beyond, like, you're creating these habits now. This is what's going to fuel your recovery. English Premiership football players, they're now lads in their 20s, trying to get them to think about fruit and vegetables. But their habits, bad habits, are so far ingrained. There are no bad foods, but there are combinations of bad foods that become bad diets that hold you back. If you spend years building those bad habits, they're so hard to break. Now is your chance to do that. Now is the chance, the family dinner that's spuds and gravy and meat and vegetables, that's working to your advantage. There's breakfast. This is whole food electrolytes. This is salted caramel oats to try and get salt and electrolytes into the lads. It's not just electrolyte drinks. Oh, I've jumped on. And nowhere have you seen stacks of supplements. Yes, they do use protein shakes for convenience. Yes, they do take creatine, but they have all these basics in place, day in and day out, every single day. It's real food. So we're talking about what's important. So what's important? The total amount of food that you take in.
Yeah, I don't know what's different. Huh?
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure whether to continue on there or not. I think we're all good to go. So we're talking about what's important. There's the performance pyramid. It's about the total amount of food that you're taking in. I think someone still has their mic on, do they? Can you still hear me okay? I'll just continue. Yeah. Okay, that's the performance pyramid. So what's important? The total amount of food that you take in. So are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? Do you feel good when you're on the pitch? Then it's the food composition. What's in your meals? How many meals are you having? Are you eating enough meals? Do they contain protein and color? Are you getting good digestion and absorption? Are you gassy and bloated? Are you hungry and craving? Do you drink enough water? Do you go to the toilet regular? Is it clear? What color is it first thing in the morning? Do you chase all your water in the afternoon and the evening because you didn't drink enough because you were busy all day, and you rush it in and you're drinking liters and then you're peeing like a racehorse? That's doing very little for your hydration because it's flushing through. The body hasn't time to rehydrate. Rehydration takes sodium and carbohydrates, good for rehydration as well. And milk is actually a fantastic rehydration. So it doesn't have to be a protein shake after training. Pint of milk, it's good as any. It's actually, they've done studies on it. It can rehydrate better than a pint of water, and better than a sports drink, because there's a little protein in there as well. There's some fats. The fat globule in dairy is absorbed slightly different, so it improves absorption. So if you can get your total amount of food right, whether you're gaining or losing weight, or you want to perform and you're looking to increase in performance, you're pushing, training hard, and there's going to be a ramp up when you're going back to training now, you need to be careful. You want to be ready and resilient to prevent as many injuries as possible. That's where the total amount of food comes in, how you're sleeping. If you're not sleeping well, you may not be eating enough, or you may be eating too much before bed. There's so many different specifics. But if you can get your total amount of food right and the composition, that's 80% of your goal. That's what they spend most of their time on with these elite athletes, because these athletes have rested on the fact that they are very good at what they do. Now, the nutritionists and the performance, the strength coaches, the physiotherapists, they don't have the resiliency to not get injured and keep performing at a competitive level because they haven't built that strong foundation. You could be fast and you can have strong muscles, but your tendons, ligaments, and joints may not or will not improve performance as quickly as the rest. So they take time. It takes that resiliency, that's that consistency. It's every meal of every day over that time. Then we can think about timing of intake. That's very, very small. So that's timing of carbohydrate, timing of protein, and all that. But if you focus on those basics, hydration's 5%. Why is it only 5% when it's so important? Because if you get your food composition right, that's a lot of your hydration. Then you can time your hydration and think about it specifically. If you're drinking through a match and you're maybe putting a bit of diluting juice and a pinch of salt into it, that's fine. Or you're eating an orange and you're drinking a bottle, or you're having a pint of milk, there's hydration in there. Supplements is at the very, very top. That's 5%, but that's to make it easy for counting and calculating. It's really only 2 or 3%. Now, if you're Usain Bolt and nitrates are going to help you buffer lactic acid for a sprint, and it could possibly give you 1 or 2%, he'll gain a lot from that because everything else is dialed in, and he's looking to gain milliseconds. But is that relevant to you when you're 15 or 17 or 18 on a pitch, when you missed your breakfast and you're spending a fortune on creatine and nitrates and beetroot juice before training, and the beet shots and they're dear, and you're actually supposed to have 2 of them, one of them's not enough? And did you know you're supposed to have it 3 hours before training and not just before training? It's all these different things that make it irrelevant to you. Focus on the basics. The consistency of those basics will get you to where you want to be. Protein. Why is protein so important? Because it starts everything in the body. Everything in the body is made of and uses protein. So it's not about building muscle. It's recovery, it's digestion, it's absorption. Digestive enzymes are proteins. Oxygen is carried in the blood in protein. Your muscular contraction starts with an enzyme. That's a protein. Your immune system for recovery, for illness and injury, recovery and repair, is built on and uses proteins. Your DNA is proteins. It's strings of proteins. Your body can store carbohydrate in the muscle. Your body can store fat. We know what it looks like. It's body fat. Your body can't store protein. So it's either breaking it down or it's making it from itself, or you're taking it in. It's called essential amino acids. We'll talk about branched chain amino acids later on. we can't store those essential amino acids. They're called essential because we can't make them, so we need them. That's why it's protein and color in every meal. And that color helps you digest and absorb and use everything that comes with it. So if we think of protein being the enzymes and the color are the keys to start the engine. So you want to have all these things together in place. I'll talk a lot about protein and color. I've said it a lot already. I'll continue to say it, and it becomes annoying because it's just to get you to remember. It's information retention. If you remember nothing else about Brandy that waffled about food, it's protein and color, and it's getting it in every meal. So there's some protein choices. The lads can share those pictures with you. Everybody knows, or a lot of people know, what is a good protein source. Okay, is that higher in fat? Is that lower in fat? Is a McDonald's Big Mac as good as a chicken fillet that your mum roasted in the oven? I don't think so. But it's knowing then that, okay, nuts aren't a great protein source. Nuts are a fat source. It's learning those wee specifics. You learn those things now. You learn how to make meals. So when you go to college and you're living on your own, it's not freezer food, and you can still improve your performance while living in the digs in Belfast or whatever it is. You know that you can create meals that out of Iceland, and you can make it easy for yourself that you can achieve your goals. So it's not a specific diet that costs a lot of money with fancy supplements. Like, you can run into Lidl and you can buy yogurt and you can buy chicken fillets or turkey burgers and you can buy rice, and it's all pre-cooked, and you buy bags of salad, chop it all together, whatever works. And it keeps you on track to achieve your goals. When we think about vitamins and minerals, we've talked about digestion and absorption and the importance of color. There's why. There's your vitamins and minerals. And what do you see? You see color. It's micronutrition and fiber. The protein leverage effect. Your body is a term that your body is searching for protein first. Protein comes from the Greek word proteus, which means the first one. That's what your body searches for. If you don't get enough protein in the meal, you're not satisfied, so you're hungry, so you eat more. Whereas if you can get enough protein and color into your meals and you're trying to lose weight, you'll not be as hungry or craving. If you get your minimum thresholds of protein and color in all your meals and you choose your carbohydrate sources right, you can improve performance and you can get stronger, bigger, leaner, faster without putting on body fat, and you can eat a lot of food. So it's then choosing your carbohydrate sources. And if we think of the carbohydrate sources, there are no bad foods. There are bad combinations to make bad diets that negate your performance over time. So if you lean towards the simple carbohydrates, the white ones that digest and absorb fast, that spike blood sugar, that's not going to be ideal for you day in, day out on a long-term basis. You're creating habits that post-career are going to come back to bite you whenever you're not training or moving as much, and then you still have the appetite and the habits of the white fast carbs. Those are good at certain times for certain reasons. The complex carbohydrates, it's not just as simple and complex, fast and slow. There are nuances in between, but it's just to make it easy to remember. The complex carbohydrates, they will give you more nutrient density, which gives you more health and recovery and performance. So it's not just about me waffling about being healthy when you're 60 years of age. You can create that health now by creating these habits. There's a recent study, 2021, just released. Antioxidant supplements, they do prevent the oxidative stress, but they're not more beneficial for enhancing performance than actual food. There's so many studies like that. I've just shared one because it's recent, but it's not more beneficial than food. The studies on multivitamins don't prevent all-cause mortality, which means they don't prevent you from getting ill or sick later on in life. You can actually overdose on certain vitamins and minerals from just taking vitamins and minerals. Carbohydrates then, we've talked about the importance of protein and getting your color in. Carbohydrates, think of activity. There's some carbohydrate sources. That's your potatoes, your rice, your oats, your bread, your pasta. Use your young, your growing, your glycogen synthesis and storage. Glycogen is the energy that's stored in the muscle. You store it slightly differently because you're that bit younger. So you want to be getting some carbohydrates in your meals, especially if you're growing fast and you're stretching out and you're quite lean. That can happen a lot. For that resiliency, for that growth, for that performance, that injury prevention, you want to be getting some carbohydrate sources and lean on the better ones, lean on the browner ones, lean on the colorful ones. Use the white ones at times. Yes, that's fine, but include them with protein and color. Fats, then, we're thinking healthy fats for healthy cells. Our whole body, every tissue and organ in our body is made up of cells. Those cells are like little water balloons. And if we think of the membrane of those water balloons being nice and soft and pliable, that's the way you want to keep your cells. Healthy fats will do that. Healthy fats is your salmon, your avocado, your olive oil, your nuts, your seeds. Yes, include a bit of fat off the bacon, but don't eat the fat off the bacon every day. A juicy steak or burger is lovely, but have it with lots of vegetables. So it's not about being on a low fat diet. It's not about being on a low carbohydrate diet. It's about making the right choices to fuel your performance and growth. So you have a tactical, physical, immunological response to your sport. It's like rugby. And if we think of the demands of your sport, you have all these different systems. It's not as soft as football. You cover more distance than soccer. It's not as much impact as rugby, but it's faster in many ways. There's not as many stops. So your performance is the culmination of all of the components we've already talked about, so that you can be as resilient in as many different areas as you can, so that you can be technical and tactical and physical at the same time, and you have a robust immune system to recover and repair. So it's about building meals on a plate. There's just an idea of some meals. You can cook meals at home on your own. It doesn't have to be fancy and colorful, but if you're including handfuls of vegetables and fruit with your meals, with all your meals, you're thinking protein and color, and it can be presented in any way. I'm not telling you have to eat tomatoes, but eat something red. It doesn't have to be carrots. Eat something orange. It doesn't have to be cucumbers. Eat something green. Eat a variety. Present it to yourself in as many different ways as you can. Cover all your bases. Many of you can say that you're getting 1,200 milligrams of calcium in a day, or 2,300 milligrams of sodium, or 4,700 milligrams of potassium. If you thought about all these things and your mum had to track and weigh it out, or you had to, it would freak you out. You would spend your time. Let your body do that. Give it what it needs. Give it a variety of protein and color and carbohydrates. You know, you have a fair idea of what healthy sources are. Yes, it's about building bridges sometimes. So you like going to the coffee, well, when they open again, I get it. The school canteen, it's energy drinks, it's the coffee shop, it's the takeaway, it's whatever. Include those things. That's part of healthy balance. You're young, you're fit, you're athletes, you're training, you want to enjoy life, you want to have a drink. We'll talk about alcohol, no problem. But be as good as you can when you can, so that you can build the bridges and take the bumps in the road. Have a few drinks, miss breakfast. It doesn't negate you. If you run a fine line and hit a bump in the road, it can derail you. If you have a strong base of consistency, a bump in the road is literally a bump. It's a blip and you move on. It doesn't affect your performance. We talked briefly about hydration. There's a P scale, give you an idea of color. You want not too dark in the morning. It will be a bit darker. You want it pretty clear throughout the day. It should never be like water, that you're drinking too much and you're drinking too fast. If it's like water and you're chasing water, well, then you're drinking too much. You can dilute your electrolytes, which can lead to cramping, and there's all these other different issues. So you want to keep it somewhere in the middle. The body likes the middle of the road. So it's about balance. The body likes homeostasis. Think about your sleep. Are you sitting up to 2 o'clock in the morning on your phone? Is that why you're tired, that you need the monsters to get going? Are you sleeping to 11 or 12 or 3 o'clock in the day, and then your training's at 5 and you feel a bit groggy, and you're chasing it, you're taking a double coffee and a monster at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Caffeine is a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, which means that half of the amount of caffeine is still in your system 5 or 6 hours later. The fact that you're younger, you'll maybe not metabolize it just the same as an older person because you don't have that habituation. and then it builds up over time. So if you're having caffeine, monster drink, coffee, whatever it is, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then it compounds over the day. So it builds up over time, and then it's not beneficial. Like, we can talk about milligrams of caffeine that is beneficial. It's 3 milligrams per kilo of body weight, which for most people is a double espresso. That's your performance pill. That's maximized caffeine intake for performance. Over and above that, it starts to negate performance. Like a Monster, I think, is like 180, 200 grams of caffeine, which is pretty much a dose of caffeine for most people for performance. That's what the elite athletes use. It's around 200 milligrams of caffeine. Some elite athletes don't use it because it negates their performance. You go over and beyond that, well, then you're taken away from your performance. Some recent studies in young athletes, especially, a lot of phone time, they're training hard, but then they have a lot of sedentary time around that. They're watching TV, they're playing with their mates, they're studying, they're playing computer games, they're on their phone, it's Instagram, whatever. That's actually not as beneficial as light movement. Someone that doesn't train, that does a wee bit of light movement every day, throughout the day, you're creating a storm for yourself and creating those habits that's going to come against you later in life. They're going to come against you now for digestion, absorption, and performance and recovery, because movement, blood is the life force for recovery. So some light movement, going for a bit of a dander, doing some chores around the house. I know we can't at the minute, but going to meet your mates or whatever, that you're not just sitting on the phone all the time, or you're not just watching TV all the time. And it's not just to be training hard all the time either. It's that light recovery movement. Go for a cycle, go whatever it is, help around the house, and go and play some football, go for a swim when it opens. I know all these things aren't possible, but trying to get as much information over to you now as possible. So someone had asked about shakes. Are they dangerous? No, they're not. You want to be getting protein in on a regular basis. So 3 to 5 times a day. Get your protein boluses in. Now, if one of those happens to be a shake, that's fine. But do you need to add protein shakes to add performance? No. Your body can digest and absorb protein every 3 hours, roughly 3 to 4 hours, depending on how much you take in. So if you're eating a meal, having a shake 2 hours later, you're not really using the protein out of that for your benefit, for muscle protein synthesis, for recovery. Someone that's taking a shake is thinking, I'm going to build muscle, I'm going to perform better. That's why they're taking it. If they're taking it along with a meal, it may not be beneficial to them. If that meal doesn't have enough protein, if they're taking it in between meals to top up their protein, they would be much safer having a bigger protein meal and focused on 3 or 4 or 5 protein meals in the day, or 3 big meals and 2 snacks, spacing them out every 3 hours. That would work a lot better. You don't have to take a protein shake before and after every session. If you have your lunch at 1 or 2 o'clock and you train at 4 o'clock and you're having your dinner at home in the evening, that's completely fine. You don't need a shake. If you have your lunch and you have a shake before training at 4 o'clock and you train and you have your dinner at 8 o'clock or 8:30 or 9 after an evening session, that's fine. If you come home at 6 o'clock, you have your lunch, you have your dinner at 6 o'clock, and you have a training session at 7:30, you don't need a shake before it. You're not that hungry after it. Would a shake help then? Yes. It's about spacing those protein boluses. If it's a shake, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a shake, but it's not going to damage healthy kidneys or make anyone ill. Just when we're talking about shakes and supplements, the GAA, Sport Ireland, we do have to think about, okay, GAA, it's anti-doping. We have to think about informed sport. What is the source? Is it batch tested? Are there contaminants in it? Does it contain things that can maybe negate your performance or fail a drug test? That's where the informed sport comes in. So it's reputable brands from reputable people. If you want any advice on that, but all you have to look for is informed sport and you'll see the brands, because it's your responsibility. If you buy something off eBay because somebody said it was good on Instagram, that's still your responsibility if you fail a drugs test, which stands to you. So that's directly from the GAA site there, the do's and don'ts. Sean can share that with you. So it's something to consider, but you have to think about why you're taking a supplement. What is it for? Is it filling the gap of a bad diet? Or can you get the food in on a regular basis? Your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and 2 snacks. Like if you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a yogurt before bed, and there was enough in each of those meals, you'll fuel your performance for anything that you want to do. You just need to make sure there's enough protein and color in those, and time and get your carbohydrate sources right and stuff like that, that you're not hungry and craving. So are the big rocks in place? Do you have that meal consistency? Is it the same every day? Are you missing breakfast and running about and grabbing a sandwich and starving all day and eating a mountain of food at nighttime because you're hungry and you're growing? That's not really benefiting you either, because you're taking in so many calories that your body can't use as well at that one time. Again, it's about, if we think of those pulses, your heart beats, you have a pulse. Think of food in those pulses. Get those pulses 3 or 5 times a day. That's how simple it is. And if we can remember it in that way, are you looking at adaptation? Are you looking to fuel recovery? So if you're looking at adaptation from training, what adaptation are you after? So how is it going to make you better? How is it going to improve performance? Is it a nitrate supplement? Is it, like a nitrate supplement can help you adapt so that you buffer lactic acid better in your sprints? But do you use mouthwash? Well, then mouthwash negates the benefits, because it destroys the enzymes that you need to digest and absorb the beetroot or the nitrate. This is where it becomes relevant and context dependent. Don't think about those things. Eat some beetroot. Eat some rocket lettuce. Get it into your diet every day, and you'll tap up those nitrate sources that you don't need the supplements. If it's to increase performance, is it caffeine? So, this pre-workout's deadly. It's got beta-alanine, it's got caffeine, it's got carnosine, it's got citrulline, it's got all these different things in it, and they're all researched and they're all deadly. But are you training at 7 o'clock at night and there's 500 milligrams of caffeine in it and you can't sleep? You've just negated any performance benefit you were going to get. For recovery, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. So training creates a stress creates oxidation. Well then, okay, it's oxidation, it must be bad. Let's take antioxidants. High dose antioxidants, singular antioxidants, high dose antioxidant supplements can actually negate recovery and adaptation, because you're blunting the process. So if you think of antioxidants like a fireman, would you blame a fireman for a fire? Fireman happens to always be at a fire, but it's not his fault. So that's like oxidation. So we want to let the fireman do its job and naturally let it happen so that your recovery processes can deal with it. That's when your adaptation happens. That's when you get stronger and improve. You want to support those systems with eating your antioxidant foods, because you can't overdose on the antioxidants coming from foods, because it comes with those synergistic effects. High dose supplements often run into problems with megadosing. So there's James Morton, head of nutrition for Liverpool and Team Sky. So that you can read exactly what he says, but it's basically whole food focus. They're focused on real food. They use protein powder for convenience. They use vitamin D because of where we live and our angle on the sun. We don't synthesize vitamin D very well. And vitamin D is synthesized in the skin from the sun. We don't get a lot of it. Most people don't eat enough fatty fish. So if you don't eat fatty fish, that's where your fish oils come in. So they might help support that antioxidant recovery, the anti-inflammatory response, vitamin D for bones, for calcium, for the immune system, for muscular contraction. That's important. Those are some key supplements to think about. So it's your protein powder. Carbohydrate powder, I would suggest you don't need. Carbohydrate powder is just literally a powder of sugar that's digested and absorbed easily so that it doesn't annoy the system. But if you're eating enough food, you have enough carbohydrate there from your fruits and vegetables, from your potatoes, your rice, your oats, your pasta, and your bread, that it's in the system. It's there for you and you'll get it in after. Carbohydrate powders are good for athletes that are maybe training, like a cyclist in the Tour de France use carbohydrate powder because they're cycling for 8 hours a day, or a CrossFit athlete who's training 3 times a day to perform. That's different. That's performance driven in a specific scenario. It's not relevant if you're training 3 or 4 times a week. Electrolytes, if you're salting your food and your food's generally made with salt and you're drinking your water, your electrolytes are pretty, or I would suggest pretty good. It can't give specific information on a general basis, so I'll not get specific. But your potassium, your calcium, your magnesium, if you're eating your colorful fruits and vegetables, drinking your milk, getting a yogurt in, or you're thinking about a calcium source if you're not drinking milk, well, then you're covering those bases. Your vitamin D, we've talked about. Most people in this end of the world are low. Your multivitamins can cover some holes if you don't have a very varied diet, but you can often run into toxicity. Your omega-3s, if you don't eat fatty fish, the omega-3s are good for heart health, for cell pliability. As we talked about earlier on, it's an essential healthy fat, which is great. We tend to get too many unhealthy fats, which leaves them out of balance. Creatine is possibly something to think about. In the younger athletes, I would suggest it's probably not needed just yet. Something to think about in the longer term. It can help with sprint recovery, so it helps in that ATP resynthesis. But until you're fully developed, it may or may not be beneficial to you. Someone had asked about branched chain amino acids. That's just 3 of the essential amino acids that's in protein. If you get your protein boluses right throughout the day, they'll be in your system and you'll not need the branched chain amino acids. They've actually done studies where these branched chain amino acids, the leucine, the isoleucine, and the valine, that's what the muscle uses first. So if we continually feed branched chain amino acids on the daily, every day, well, then we're creating muscle protein synthesis all the time. It doesn't work like that. There's a muscle full effect. There's a protein threshold. Once you hit that threshold, that pulse, it switches off. That's why it's every 3 hours. Nitrates, we talked about them, they might be beneficial, but look, get them in your food, your lettuce, your beetroots, that's where you get them. Caffeine, we've already talked about. It is a stimulus. It can help improve performance for some people, but it's thinking about timing and it's thinking about the source and how much you're having. So pre-match nutrition, this could also be like training days, non-training days. One day out, you're adding in some more carbohydrates to your meals. If we're thinking protein and color in all meals, we're thinking more carbohydrates on the day before a game. Your performance is not a pre-game meal. It's the days and weeks before, but primarily the day or two before. And then if you get up and you're nervous on that day, or you don't eat much, or you don't want to feel too full on the pitch, or you don't want to feel bloated, then that's completely fine. You know you have the nutrition in the system. That's the day before. So we're thinking if we're having more carbohydrates, we want a wee bit less fat. So we're thinking our leaner carbohydrate sources, our leaner protein sources, maybe not as many eggs, not as much bacon, not as many avocados, not as much fatty steak, not as much greasy, heavy sauces. Sauces tend to bog down the system. They're high in salt, sugar, and fat, which slows digestion and absorption. Whereas on the day before a game, you're looking to focus on carbohydrates to have it in the muscle. Half time, you're getting an orange, you're drinking, well, probably not half time, you'll probably not drink, but you're thinking some carbohydrates. So if it could be diluting juice with a pinch of salt, that's really all it has to be. If you want a Lucozade Sport or something, fine, you don't have to take it. After you're having a pint of milk and an orange, you're post-nutrition sorted, nothing fancy, pint of milk and an orange. That initiates your recovery. The elite athletes are using it. They've done studies on it. It's beneficial. I'm not telling you just for the sake of telling you. So your performance, eat the meal before that you feel comfortable with, that you know. Don't do anything on game day that you don't normally do, that you haven't practiced beforehand. You want to know exactly how you feel with that meal in your system an hour or 2 or 3. Your pre-game meal generally would be about 3 hours before. Include some carbohydrate, include some protein. Don't worry too much about too many fats. That could be a bit of yogurt and porridge. It could be a bowl of porridge and a pint of milk. It could be some scrambled eggs and some toast. It could be cottage cheese. I don't know what your breakfast is. There are many different sources. Keep it a bit lighter. Don't eat too much. Something you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be fancy. There's a sample meal plan, just some quick ideas. everybody has different ideas of food, and they'll go, I wouldn't do that, or I don't like that, or I wouldn't eat that, or why has he put that in? That's just a ballpark figure, just a bit of a guide to make it look like food. So it's about protein and a color, and it's about carbohydrates around training. There's your pint of milk. There's a banana. There's potassium in a banana. It could be an orange. It could be an apple. It could be a smoothie. It could be a protein shake and an orange, whatever you prefer, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Then you're getting your mum's shepherd's pie. There's mince and potatoes. There's protein. There's color. It's meat and potatoes. It's nothing fancy. And getting some yogurt before bed. Why does everybody talk about Greek yogurt? Greek yogurt's a slow digesting protein that keeps you fueled throughout the night. It drip feeds that recovery, that improvement, and that repair. We mentioned alcohol and going out for a drink with your mates. That's completely fine. There are a list of things that it does. Is it beneficial? No. Is it a bit of crack with your mates? Yes. Is that beneficial? Possibly yes. Everyone likes to relax and enjoy and be healthy. That's part of healthy balance. Completely fine. It will reduce muscle protein synthesis. It will reduce digestion and absorption. If you're taking a charge of drink and then you're getting a takeaway and you feel like crap for training on Sunday morning, is that improving your performance? No. It will slow reaction times. It'll shut down digestion and absorption of other things. So if you go on the beer straight after a match on a Sunday and you still feel sore and tired on Wednesday, well, there's a reason for that, because you didn't initiate your recovery straight away after training. Your performance is fueled by the meal straight after training. So your performance on the pitch on a Sunday is after training on a Thursday or Friday night. That's when it begins. So you can see the list of alcohol considerations. That on the left is a study that they've done, and seeing the difference that it makes whenever if you use protein beer in that study, and think, oh, this is deadly. I'm getting protein, I'm getting my carbohydrates, and it's lethal. This is what we can do after a match. Completely negated any benefit. The body shuts down digestion to get rid of the toxin. Then, okay, for any that are maybe allergy season, it's immunity, it's colds, it's flus, it's all those different things, or maybe it's pain meds because you have a niggle that you're trying to, my ankle's a bit sore, my knee's a bit sore, I'll just take an ibuprofen or whatever, it gets me through training. Are you just masking the pain and creating more damage long term? Are you using it all the time where it's creating digestive distress where you can't digest and absorb your food properly? Like even these Sudafed over-the-counter medications, there are banned substances in them. Not to say that they're overly bad or whatever, but they're on the banned substance list, and they can risk a doping. So that you can't go that far. You have to be aware of these things. And if, again, as we talked about with the antioxidants, if you're jumping in too early to blunt that recovery, then you're blunting your adaptation. So those are just some things to think about. So as we began, the key areas of focus, protein and color in every meal, as many different colors as you can. Get those healthy sources in, your potatoes, your rice, your oats, your pasta, your fruit and your veg. That's a lot of your hydration strategy. Drink some milk, drink some water, keep an eye on your pee. Is it clear? Is it clear in the morning? Is it too clear at nighttime? Are you peeing like a racehorse because you're down in things? Just become aware of those things. Think about your carbs for training, carbs for activity, before and after training. Make sure that the carbs are in there and they're good sources, and think about how you become mindful of how it feels in your tummy. Be consistent, stick to a structure as best you can. It could be 3 or 4 meals. It could be 3 meals and 2 snacks, and that's every day during the week. You could be a creature for habit and you do it 7 days a week, or it could be you do that and then at the weekend it's bigger meals, but it's not as many. That's all fine. Be as consistent as you can. And if you are hungry and snacking on things that you think are holding you back, that aren't fueling your performance, is this what an athlete would eat? Well, then if you're taking in those things because you're craving and you're hungry, why are you hungry and craving? Use that whole food approach for digestion and absorption. So there you go. Everybody's free. I've waffled long enough.
That was first class, Brendan. Thanks for that. For myself, I think I'm going to have to go away and reevaluate a lot of things, to be honest, because oh, look, there was a wealth of information there, first class, and I suppose I would say to the young lads, why do you play football? For me, myself, it was to be the best I could be, and that's the Fermanagh Academy motto: be the best you can be. And looking back at my own career, be it at county level or even club level, it was the greatest area that I neglected as a player. If I was the 16, 17-year-old player now, how do I maximize my performance? And this was a massive area. We were always told about the three-legged table. If you take away one leg, the table falls over. And, looking at that information there, be it on the nutritional end of things, hydration, or the sleep, I think they're massive things. And I can't stress enough to the young fellas here, or any player or any coach that's on tonight, touch base with the likes of Brandy there, somebody that's knowledgeable in this area. Feed off the information he's given tonight. I suppose myself, as I got older, I researched it a wee bit more, but I have to say, Brandy, that what you delivered there was first class. I suppose before we asked, maybe I'm sure Teresa and Owen and some of the players have been sending through questions there. For myself, would it be right in saying that when you talk about combinations, there's no bad foods, but it's bad combinations. If you got the combinations right in what you eat, is there much need for the supplements?
There are very few. You'll see on the supplement list, and you'll see the head of nutrition there for Liverpool. Their key areas of focus are food, because there are things in food that research hasn't discovered yet. To say, they thought there was a few hundred polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are only one branch of antioxidants, and there's 8,000 polyphenols. There's thousands of these compounds that we're not even aware of. So there's things in food that we can't put in supplements because we don't even know they exist. Like, very simply, an orange contains vitamin C. Great, we'll take a vitamin C tablet. No. Oh, right, it actually contains aspartame as well, which is a key enzyme. All right, okay, well, we'll put vitamin C and aspartame in a tablet. No, it still doesn't do the same thing. So, right, okay, I'll just eat an orange. So if you get your food right, then the supplements can actually gain performance. They're not filling holes in a bad diet. So if we think about, okay, there are no bad foods, Brandy, well, then what are you talking about? But there are bad combinations. So if you are continually using bad combinations, your body will respond to the stimulus that you provide. That stimulus could be a benefit or a negative. That stimulus could be an adaptation or a stress. So is it going to respond in a positive, beneficial way for you that you're looking to improve? If you are bogging the system down with bad foods that create more inflammation, and you're in a constant state of putting your immune system under, like, it's your immune system that creates recovery, whether it's illness, injury, or whatever. If it's constantly under pressure, trying to recover from COVID, from general wear and tear, from illness, from injury, from training, from stress, from daily life, from not sleeping enough, and from bad food, you're just compounding the problems.
Perfect. I suppose last thing, I'm sure Teresa or Owen wants to ask it, but we were dealing with academy players here, and look, I understand these boys probably aren't going to be cooking their meals for themselves. So how important a role has the parents? Because I suppose I'd be used to cooking for my children, and how much of an important role does the parents have? And I understand it's very hard to get young children to change diet habits, but maybe how could you, as a parent, sort of drip feed or have a process of getting good habits in, developing habits?
If we look at behavior change and the psychology behind it, what are we trying to do? We're trying to help young people become better athletes. by teaching them things or trying to get information across to them from maybe problems or mistakes that we have made that we're trying to save them from. But I get it. I have kids. These old boys and trainers and ma and dad, they're just constantly on at me. And ma's talking about this and dad's talking about that. And your man's on, and Sean's got your man from Cookstown to waffle on about food. And they're all telling us this. And what does it actually mean? And I don't care. I get it. All we're trying to do is make it simple for you to say to you, let's focus on your pain point, as in what is relevant to you. You're 15, you're 17. You don't want to be running around eating loads of fruit and vegetables because your friends will think you're a weirdo. You're not going to be eating salads at school because you know, is it even cool to go to the canteen no more? I don't know. But all we're trying to say to you is these things will improve your performance, your consistency, your recovery. If you have aspirations, you talked there about motivation and why you played, whatever your motivations are, if you're playing football, there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. If you're playing football to get a picture on Instagram, that's short term. You're not going to commit yourself to the changes that you need to make to become really good to get to where you could be. If you are playing football to get good and be a good athlete and focus on the process of improving recovery, and that process is every kick of the ball, it's every training, it's all those little things that Sean's telling you to do, that your coaches are filtering down to you, it's protein and colour in every meal. It's those athletes that excel and have the longest careers because they get sick less, they're more consistent. They're more consistent, so they turn up to train more. If they turn up to train more, they're increasing their chances to improve performance. Like if you train, 4 or 5 times a week and you eat 4 or 5 meals a day, you have 7 times more opportunities to improve performance. In training, you are breaking down. How do you recover? Not when you're training. You recover with sleep. Sean talked about the importance of sleep. The first Hafthor Bjornsson, World's Strongest Man, the mountain from the Game of Thrones, the first thing that there was a guy called in to improve his performance because he hit a wall. He was just getting fat and he was getting slow and he was losing strength. Is this relevant to a 17-year-old athlete standing on a pitch in Fermanagh? It is, because our basic physiology is the same. The specifics are different, yes. But we talked about that 60%. Our basic physiology is the same. We all use ATP. We all can store carbohydrates. We all need protein. That's the same. We all need sleep. The first thing they focused on was sleep. Sleep is the greatest performance enhancer known to man. If you could put it in a bottle, it would beggars belief what it's worth. And when we think about what comes next, exercise and training is king. Yes, movement is the stimulus. That's how you get better, because that's your performance. That's the parameter that you follow. Nutrition is queen. Together, that makes a kingdom. So that's an old saying from a very famous fitness guy years ago. You want to create a kingdom for yourself to be as good as you possibly can be, and focus on the wee things that you can improve every day.
Thank you, Brandy. Perfect. Maybe Teresa wants to come in, or Owen wants to come in with a question. I have a few more from the players and myself, so maybe I give an opportunity to Owen or Teresa. You want to ask a wee question?
I'll throw one in or start maybe the ball rolling. You talked a lot about consistency in that, you know, your 3 meals a day and 2 snacks and that. But I suppose for maybe young ones and youth and that, the breakfast is a difficult one, whether that's getting up too late and having to rush out for the bus, or just not feeling like you're ready to eat of that. So have you any advice around, you know, what's the best way to maybe improve on that or help you along there?
Taking any of the advice that I've given tonight, this is not me telling you what to do. This is me giving you the best of what I can, of what's optimal. So it's not about being optimal tomorrow. Brandy said I have to eat 5 times a day, and you go and you do that. You turn your life upside down. It's too much of a change. Anything you do small changes, small sustainable changes. If you don't eat breakfast, you start tomorrow by thinking about breakfast. What could I possibly have? What would I actually like? You plant the seed, you let it grow. Then, okay, well, then I maybe will try breakfast. So it could be a glass of milk. It could be a smoothie sitting in the fridge from the night before. It could be overnight oats. It could be a protein bar. We talked about building bridges. Is it perfect? Straight out of the gates? Nothing is ever. There is no such thing as perfect. So it's about taking a step towards. So if you're here and you want to be here, you can't just go here because you're not ready for it. Sometimes the barriers that are in your way, working around them gives you the tools that you need and the knowledge to maintain what you learn to be there. So if someone handed you all your goals, you wouldn't know how to keep them or manage them or use them because you haven't earned them. I know that sounds very waffly and philosophical, but what I'm saying is take a step towards where you want to be. What's feasible for you? Is it half a sandwich? Is it a slice of toast? Is it something? If you're trying to fuel recovery, think about what you like to eat and don't think of breakfast. Everybody that I work with, 99% of them struggle with breakfast. It's bacon and eggs or it's porridge. And how do they make it work? And look, that's fine. No problem. It could be, for some people, it's a slice of toast and a glass of orange, but they're not thinking about their protein source. So if we start there, if we start everything with protein and color, so it could be milk, it could be overnight oats, it could be a smoothie, it could be a protein shake, a scoop of protein, away you go. It could be a protein bar. You don't have to use supplements. They are convenient and they taste nice, so they can help bridge a gap. If a parent is worried about their kids starting on supplements and becoming reliant on them or them damaging them, whey protein is the weighing off of the cheese process. So it's the liquid that comes off cheese. They powder it, they flavor it, and they put it in tubs and they sell it. Do you have to take shakes or supplements? No, but it's convenient, it's handy, it's on the run. It could be some meat, it could be some eggs, it could be some bacon, it could be some soy yogurt, it could be some tofu, whatever you're into. It's a protein source. I can share protein sources with you. Sean can share it with you. It's finding a protein source that you will take in happily. And don't think of breakfast being breakfast food. Think of food being anytime food. Who said you couldn't have oats before bed or for dinner or for lunch? Who said you can't have, like my daughter's 14 and everybody's going to think she's weird now that I said this, but she'd steak and rice for breakfast happily. You know, I'll have chicken and potatoes and vegetables after training at 7 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's different. It doesn't matter. It's about thinking about, okay, am I an athlete? Do I want to be an athlete? Why am I doing this? Okay, I'll try this and see what works. Protein and color, that's where it starts.
Thank you. I think Sean was agreeing with you there. He might have steak for breakfast every morning too, I think. But small steps. It's about getting them small steps and getting yourself along that road.
Half a glass of milk. That could be a start.
Yeah.
Is it ideal? No, there's thresholds and minimums and quantities and different things, but it's not about that. It's about taking a small step.
Owen, I'll let you jump in there or something.
No, very good, Brandon. Took a lot on that there. Like Sean says there, it's something that probably I would like to think I started out very good nutritionist, probably went downhill to the later parts of my career. But it's definitely something that, you know, keep coming back to all the time, and it makes a massive, massive difference in terms of the training, the way I feel before matches, and it's so important. The big thing that, look, I would always get a lot of those questions coming back to me after training. What's the best thing straight after the match? Like, you know, I always try to tell the lads, you know, them 30 minutes after a football match is the most important time you try and get in. And I know the likes of me and Sean there, and we get wraps for lads, and we've even got protein shakes in the gym just to try and get that on straight after training. Is there anything that you could sort of put across the lads of how important it is and what type of thing that you should be taking in that 30 minutes post-training?
So as we said, what do we do whenever we train? We break down. So what are you trying to do after training straight away that you're focused on? It's about creating that recovery. So you want to fuel that performance adaptation. You want to fuel that recovery, that anti-inflammatory response. fuel it, bolster it, give your body what it needs. You can't build a wall without the bricks. So you've trained yourself, you've busted yourself, you want to perform, you want to come back the next session and perform better, or at least the same, and then weeks over weeks, you'll perform better. You don't want to be injured. So we have to give the body what it needs. First and foremost, protein, Proteus, first one, it comes first. So then your color, the speed of color is not as important there, but it's a very good vehicle for hydration and vitamins and minerals to stimulate that digestion absorption. That's where a piece of fruit comes in. So as I say, in that wee list and in the studies that they've done, actually done it in young football players, and NFL, NBA, they're big into milkshakes. Is it ideal? No, but it's something that they'll take. So as I said in the presentation, do you need a protein shake after every training session? No, but I know where the managers are coming from here. It's a case of these lads are training hard and these girls, and we want to make sure that they're starting their recovery process now when we can see them. At least we know they have a shake in them or a wrap in them. So that's where the whole food comes in. Chicken wrap, you've seen the English rugby guys, they were taking wraps with them when they were going out, and that was their packed lunch. It was chicken wraps and berries. It could be a pint of milk, could be a half a pint of milk, it could be an orange, could be a banana, could be a protein shake, could be a chicken wrap, could be a sandwich, could be a full-on meal whenever you get home an hour later, if you're going to take it when you go home. If not, that's when a shake comes in. But it's literally, you're looking at fast protein and a fast carbohydrate. They're the two main things. And if we're thinking we need protein, we need carbohydrate, we need a big handful of protein. And I know that sounds weird, but if we think in handfuls, that you become aware of your intake and you build these habits now. So we think a handful of protein is like a burger patty. It's like a chicken fillet. It's like a piece of salmon. It's like 3 eggs. It's like a small tub of yogurt. I know you're not going to grab yogurt, but a pot of yogurt, or we're thinking like a teacup being a handful, that amount of yogurt. A protein scoop is a portion of protein. That's about 20 to 30 grams of protein. That's what you're looking. If you happen to take 2 handfuls in some meals, that's fine. But if your dinner has 7 handfuls, is it benefiting you because you haven't had enough during the day? Not really. You can't make up for lost protein, just like you can't make up for lost sleep and lost time. So what's key? A fast protein, which comes back to milk, yogurt, meat. We're looking at the leaner sources of meat, your chicken fillets, things like that. What you're doing already is good.
That's good. No, it's just, and then I suppose it's coming back to that late at night, boys are finishing training maybe at 10 o'clock, and a lot of them definitely wouldn't eat, too late tonight. What could be, is it better just to just get a shake? I've been trying to give them advice and sort of, look, if at least try and get a protein shake in or something just before you're going to bed, mix with some milk, because at least you're getting the slow release protein.
There you go. Perfect. Now, why a shake is fine. That initiates recovery. A shake after training at 8 o'clock and you're having your dinner, that's grand. Like an hour later, an hour or two later, that's fine. You're just initiating recovery. Going home at 9:30 or 10 and only having a shake, you could actually wake up in the middle of the night because you'll get a bit of a glycemic response and you'll rebound and you'll get up to go to the toilet and you'll not know why. That could be why we want a slow digestion protein at night. If we think about when do you recover and repair? When you're sleeping. That's why sleep's important. Now, how does your body recover and repair if you haven't taken in fuel? And we're saying we can't store protein and you've just trained really hard, but you haven't taken in any carbohydrate. Where does it come from? You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So you're breaking down other proteins within the system when you're sleeping to fuel that recovery. And then you're in a bit of a vicious cycle where you're spinning your wheels and you can't understand why you're not improving. So having that protein shake before bed made with milk works. Do you have to make your protein shakes with milk all the time? No. Having it made with milk before bed works. Then you run into, okay, is that a lot of fluid? So that's where a pint of milk might be too much fluid. You would wake up to go to the toilet. what might be more beneficial is throw a scoop of protein into a yogurt and have it, because a yogurt is made with the really slow digesting protein out of milk. It'll take about 6 hours to digest. So there you go. You've just trickle fed your recovery throughout the night with a yogurt. So yogurt and cottage cheese are two simple, very easy sources. And if you don't eat dairy and you maybe have a dairy intolerance, well, then the likes of a vegan yogurt, like your Alpro, soya, almond yogurt, whatever, they're all quite low in protein. Throw in a scoop of vegan protein powder. The soya yogurts are a bit higher in protein, which can work for a lot of people, but they tend to be quite high in sugar. So just keep an eye on them. But that's slow digestion protein, as you said, that's ideal.
I'm sorry, I keep going here, but these are the questions that I would get a lot.
Look, that's what I'm here for.
The last one then, I'll let you hang on, Sean, there and get some from the players, but just that thing of coming back after training, as I say, and then eating. And is there any vitamins or supplements that you would recommend to help aid that relaxation and sleep? You know, I've been telling lads maybe a wee bit of magnesium or something. Or is there any multivitamin that you says maybe can take you down after training, that relaxation to switch off?
No. Now, when you say that relaxation to switch off, we were talking about multivitamins earlier on. Magnesium will aid in muscular contraction. It will aid in the melatonin release and that helping sleep, but it can't override a wired mind. So if you're stimulated, and what will help is the carbohydrate after training. So that's where the likes of an orange would come in, or yogurt and oats and berries would be ideal. Make it into a smoothie that you don't have to sit and eat it. The carbohydrate will help melatonin released. It will, like what's keeping you awake, it's cortisol. It's a stress response. It's a stress hormone that has been ramped up for training. If you go to bed completely empty and hungry, that will then waken you up. It's a cortisol response, it's stress, it's hunger. Carbohydrate will help reduce that cortisol response. If you have had a good pre-training meal, your cortisol response will not be as high, so you'll come down naturally better after training anyway. So it's not about saying, okay, to sleep better, I need to take X. All right, okay, then to sleep better, I always have to take X. So then X becomes, all right, I need that to sleep. So you could be creating a monster there on the other side of that. That's why it's always a food first focus. If you're eating enough color, fruit and veg, and you're getting some nuts and seeds in, you're getting all your magnesium. Your body's getting it in quantities and ways that it knows how to digest and absorb, and its stores are full. So is there supplements, vitamins that you can take? They're not technically vitamins, they're sleep supplements. Yes, there is. There's sleep medication. Yes, there is. But you're creating a habit. You're creating a synapsis to say, that's a mind path that, okay, I need that to sleep. Are the lads taking in a lot of caffeine before training? Is that why they can't sleep and wind down? I don't know. That just is something to consider.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you.
I actually have a wee PDF there on sleep, nutrition for sleep, and some of the research that they've done on it. So I can send that through to you. I'll make a note of it. I'll send it through to Teresa, and then she can share it with you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Randy.
Not a bother.
Thanks, Owen. I suppose just on that, Brandy, I suppose the part I took away from it, maybe it's something from management teams to create that culture of the recovery as part of the session, and not suppose leaving without initiating that recovery. And I know past managers I had, they would have pints of milk or protein or something there.
Yeah.
So it's getting into that culture of, this is actually part of the session, and this is getting you ready for the next session. It is part of player development. It's going to make you better, and sometimes we neglect that. The session's finished, the whistle is gone, go home. It's about fueling for the next session.
Well, if we think about recovery, and the lads are focused on recovery, they're probably focused on a six-pack, and they've seen something on Instagram, and they've all these different things, and that's fine. But if we think about what performance is, what's performance? For everybody, it's slightly different. Yes, for every sport modality, it's different parameters of performance. But ultimately, it comes back to your performance on the pitch. You know, it's what fuels that. Then it's management, it's psychology, it's recovery, it's sleep, it's digestion, it's absorption, it's illness, it's injury recovery, it's illness prevention. It's all these different things. It's mindset, it's motivation. You know, it's performance isn't one thing. Performance isn't a 5-10-5. Performance isn't catching the ball. Performance isn't taking a free. You know, performance is 500 things. So if you focus on them all, and if you think it, okay, this is improving my performance, my breakfast tomorrow can improve my performance or not. Sean telling me and the lads to lie down after our busting session where we done sprints on the pitch on Thursday night, and we all have to lie on our backs for 5 minutes and just breathe. Is that performance? I would say that it is, because you're talking about winding down. They've done a lot on breath work, and this sounds very touchy-feely. We're not going to do that. Get yourself on. But I have trained fitness for 22 years. I have fitness goals and aspirations that I still want to achieve. I'll do breath work. I'll do a bit of yoga. I'll eat colour. I'll eat a salad for breakfast. That's me. That's fine. That's my line in the sand. You decide where yours is. But Sean and the management are not going to tell you to do anything to make you look stupid. They're there to make you look great. And they're there behind the scenes, taking their time out. Like now, they don't have to do this, but they're putting it together for you to improve your performance and help those people around you that can support and improve your performance. So whenever your mum does make you a dinner that's meat and 2 veg, and I don't know if she can cook, maybe she's not a great cook, maybe it's the same thing all the time, maybe it's a bit boring, whatever it is, doesn't matter. She's trying her best to help. Your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your granny, Sean, Owen, Teresa, whoever it is, they're trying to give you all these different angles to create a culture to improve performance. And ultimately, it has to come back from you. So I was listening to a podcast, a guy called Peter Jensen, one of the most renowned sports psychologists. Don't let perfection get in the way of being good. Don't focus on being perfect. Focus on being as good as you can when you can. And if you do that, positivity will breed positivity. You will become better, and your good will become very good. Then it'll become very good most of the time. And if you're very good most of the time, you're damn near perfect.
Spot on. Agree 100%. And when you talk about yoga, what is interesting over these last number of workshops is a lot of common themes are coming up. We talked to Dean Rock, we talked to Andy Moore and Des Ryan over in Arsenal, and even Arsenal Football Club, they're doing mindfulness yoga, and breathing, and it's a common theme running throughout. And what we're doing as coaches, as a nutritionist, as athletic development coaches, we're giving the players a set of choices. And ultimately, lads, it will come down to you as players of taking on board the information you're given, so we can put it there, but ultimately it's creating that good mindset, good attitude towards it, taking on board the choices that have been put in front of you. I will go on, sorry, Brandy, there's a couple of lads asking questions. Keisha, who is, he always asks a question.
Don't name and shame, that's not fair.
No, Keisha is good. And what I would say is Keisha has put in a tremendous effort over the last couple of years, and he does an awful lot of work. One of the questions he's asked today is, how can you stay full on a calorie deficit diet? Is there any tips for him?
Well, I'm actually on a cut at the minute, so I completely feel your pain. Now, your body will respond to the stimulus that you provide. So they've done and it so works. that protein leverage effect that I talked about earlier on, your body searching for protein. Like these people that are obese, that are eating McDonald's in abundance and then blaming McDonald's for getting obese. These foods are designed that you can overeat and you get loads of calories, but your body doesn't get enough nutrition, that it keeps sending that signal. Look, you haven't hit these basics. I don't have enough of this. I need more. You give me all these calories, but you're not giving me nutrition. So if you flip that on its head and you think about digestion rates, you think about what's going to keep me fuller for longer, you have expansion parameter or expansion markers in the tummy that they sense the expansion of the tummy. They talk about 20 minutes to know that you're actually full. So if we're thinking voluminous food, and if they've done, even if you try it with yourself, you can eat a hell of a lot of peanut butter and not be full, but that's a serious amount of calories. You could drink a bottle of olive oil and have your whole daily calories, your whole week's calories in a bottle. It's not going to keep you full very long. Whereas if you eat a bowl of salad, that's why everybody talks about spinach and lettuce and tomatoes and cucumber. It's lots of nutrition, lots of fiber, lots of water. It expands the stomach. It slows digestion. Your protein then slows digestion, creates gastric intrinsic factor for digestion and absorption. You can actually digest and absorb these things properly rather than them being rushed through because they don't know what to do with it. Or it goes in and creates gas, bloating and diarrhea. It has an osmotic effect where it's flushed out. And there's so many different things. So, sorry, I was into the weeds. What's going to keep you fuller for longer? Voluminous food. So if you think of food that gives you a lot of nutrition, if you look at nutrient density, you can check it up. I'll share about nutrient density as well. I'll send that through to Sean. Do you think of a food that looks big, takes up a lot of volume on a plate? That's going to take up more volume in your tummy. That's going to help you feel fuller for longer. You drink a pint of water before a meal. You're not going to eat as much in that meal. It's not going to keep you full because the water goes very quick. But it just shows you that these expansion receptors work. And then your protein, your color, there's digestive enzymes and hormones that are released whenever you eat certain things like PYY and CK and all these different parameters. There's ghrelin, there's leptin, there's all these different things. And depending on what you eat, you will trigger these things. If you trigger them all right, you'll not be as hungry. Then it comes down to your microbiome. People have heard of their maybe not, microbiome, probiotics. A lot of people talk about probiotics and gut health and stuff at the minute. Your microbiome is your tummy, is your digestion, your poo. So if you're not going to the toilet properly or every day, or it's too runny or it's too hard or whatever, it's really hard to clean. I'm not being graphic. If it's going in, it has to come out on a regular basis. If that's not all happening properly, well, then there's something wrong. If you're getting a lot of gas, bloating and diarrhea, there's something wrong. If you fuel the bad gut bacteria, as they're called, you will crave bad food to feed the bad gut bacteria. They love salt, sugar, and fat. They love all those treat foods. But if you fuel your good gut bacteria with vegetables and fruit, lots of micronutrition, they will outweigh the bad. You'll feel better. Then you will crave those healthy foods that will fill your tummy and keep you fuller for longer. And then you're not hungry because you have the fuel in the system. You can perform and recover because you have the fuel in the system. You can choose what carbohydrates and have them around activity, that they're not putting fat on you. And you feel a lot better. And because you have more of them, you crave the good foods. So you're not actually craving for opportunity just because you've seen a Mars bar or smelt a cookie.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brendan. Another one from Colin. He was wanting to know, what would you recommend as the best food or foods to take pre-match? You know,
what's the best food?
Yeah,
the one you'll eat. What's the best diet? The one you'll do. What's the best exercise? You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly what I would eat before a match, but you'll not like it. And the person beside you will think it's too much. And the person beside that will think it's too little. Don't do anything on match day you wouldn't do or haven't tried. You train it now. You train it before training. You train it like you train It's your reps, it's your sets, it's your meals. It's, okay, if I have eggs 2 hours before training, how do I feel? All right, I'm not doing that again. It's taking too long to digest. It's lying in me. If I have a bowl of oats, well, that's not too bad. If I have a bowl of Cocoa Pops, I am absolutely ravenous. That didn't do nothing for me because it's digesting and absorbing too fast. Your performance before a match, your performance for a match, as I said earlier on, starts in the days beforehand. You have the fuel in the system, because if we think about what do you need to perform at a match, you need some protein in the system to help protect what you have, to give those enzymes for muscular contraction, for calcium release, for ATP, for sprints, for all those things, for jumping. Great. Get some protein in the system. We know that. You need carbohydrate for energy, for glycogen, for glucose, for blood glucose, for ATP. So where does that come from? You store 5 grams in your blood. That's your blood sugar, which is regulated by your liver, which is 100 grams. But your glycogen store is your muscles. What you eat before a game doesn't have time to get into the muscles. So that's not actually helping. So what you eat before a game is going to help a wee bit with blood sugar and a wee bit with liver glycogen. So it doesn't have to be a lot. So if you're thinking, generally speaking, what are the athletes going to weigh? 60, 70, 80 kilos, probably averaging 70. So if we're thinking they're averaging around somewhere around 70 kilos, if they're getting one big handful of protein in their pre-match, pre-training meal, and they're getting 2 fistfuls of carbohydrates. If you think of your fists, everybody's hands is slightly different. But if they're getting that, so they're like in 2 big handfuls of porridge, that would work for them. They're thinking 2 wraps, that would work for them. Now, that might be too much for some people. So it's very hard to be specific. For some people, it's pre-match nerves and they can't handle anything. One of the English rugby guys, especially when he was in Tokyo, couldn't handle anything, just run through him. What the hell are we going to do? So it was a case of they started him with half of a recovery shake and they worked it up to 3/4 of a recovery shake, and that's all he could handle. And for some people, couldn't handle anything at all. So they were taking a recovery drink, like a sports drink, like a Lucozade Sport, and they were mouth rinsing and spitting it back out when they were on the pitch, because there is research to say that that will improve performance. That can initiate glycogen release. It starts the engine for glycogen, even though you don't swallow it. Sorry, I was off in the weeds a wee bit there, but what's the best food to eat before training or a match? Think of 2 big handfuls of fistfuls of carbohydrate, whatever sits well in your tummy. Some people, it's pasta. Don't have a pasta party just before a match, and that's the only time that you eat pasta, because you hear that pasta's good and a lot of runners use it, so it's good for loading. Don't do that. If you like pasta, have some pasta, dead on. If you don't normally eat pasta, well, then don't eat it. If you like oats, have oats. If you like potatoes, have potatoes. If you like oats for breakfast and potatoes for dinner, do that. Just have a bit of extra carbohydrates in every meal the day before a game, and that'll go a long way. Make sure you have some toast or oats or something for breakfast, but don't go chasing big amounts, and do not do anything different on match day that you haven't tried.
Thanks, Brandy. That's your stuff there. Just I suppose, I know boys had questions, but we sort of covered a lot of it there. You know, you've answered a lot of it through it. Just on that, I hope that 70 kg was for the young guys, because either that or I'm going home to have an argument with my weighing scales, because they're not great, hey. But no, look, I suppose the one last thing in terms of, it's a bit like that food question there that Conrad asked. In terms of supplements, and this is probably from my own experience of them, I can remember one year there was like about 10 boxes of Pro Plus on the table, and we were told to wing these into us before the game. If you're not used to taking supplements, is it not something you should be taking maybe at training or at somewhere, but don't just take them before a match if your body wouldn't be used to them? Or would it be?
Do not do anything on game day that you haven't tried?
Mhm.
Anything on game day. What is game day? Game day is your height of performance. That's your stage. That's what you train for. Are you going to go out and do a new play, try a new kick? You're right-footed player. Are you going to go out and kick left today? Just, oh, well, I've seen on Instagram your man was good. Do not do anything on game day that you haven't tried. And try to break it in training. And what I mean by that is eat too much before Sunday morning training session. Purposely to practice, what can I get away with? Okay, I know that's too far. I'll rein it back in. Like, do you push the lads harder in training beyond where you think they are possibly going to go that day to push that boundary a wee bit? Do the same with your food at times. Not all the time, because you'll end up spilling over. You don't have to get 5,000 grams of carbohydrates the day before game just for the crack, because Brendy said to try and break it. That's not what I mean. But try and push your boundaries a wee bit. Test it sometimes. Anything that you do, like you used to do friendly matches and stuff to practice performance. Practice then. Practice before Sunday morning training session. Don't take any supplement that you haven't tried before training. Don't take caffeine or even a new source of caffeine, because it could be metabolized different. You know, does it have caffeine and teacrine in it? Does it have green coffee in it? You know, there's different, you know, is it coming with taurine as well? Is it coming with sugar or not? Is it sugar free? It all has an effect. And okay, we could try caffeine chewing gum because it's absorbed faster. But I've only ever had coffees and they sort of trickle in and it's absorbed in 45 or 60 minutes. But these are absorbed in 5. Can you handle that absorption in 5 minutes? Because if you spill over, you'll not even be fit to catch a ball. And then where's your performance? What good is your stimulant or whatever it is done you? Or if you're broken on the side of the pitch because you've had too much or you've tried some new supplement. Don't do anything on game day you haven't tried.
Well, thanks, Brandy. I think that makes sense, but I suppose as coaches, you know, you do dry runs of what you do in warm-ups, finding what works, what doesn't work, just to make sure by come end of league championship time you get the optimum warm-up. So I suppose that's a great point for all the players. You know, find out what works in training. Do dry runs, I suppose I call them.
No, exactly that. Because if we think about what are you looking to happen on the pitch, it's technical, it's tactical, it's under pressure. There's some man trying to get that ball and he's trying to knock you over, run you down, run faster than you, hammer you into the floor while you're trying to do that. You get a bit of that at training, but it's not the same. So then you have the added stress effect of all of that. How does that affect your digestion and absorption? How does that affect your mental acuity, your reaction time, your cognition? You know, all of those things, like I could share studies with you on glycogen usage as it gets, you know, that second half of the second half, that's when glycogen starts to really deplete. That's when there's more freeze, there's more mistakes, there's less sprint times, the shorter distances covered. That's when a lot of matches can be won or lost. A lot of the big teams have capitalized on that. They've coasted and they've ramped it up at the end. You know, many times have you seen, second half, they busted out of the gates and at half time, and where did they come out of? Who are they? It's about fueling that. It's about, okay, what are they drinking in the changing rooms? Some people can run off the pitch at half time. You have 10 minutes and they're down in a drink and it's full of sugar, but it's digested and absorbed. They get an insulin spike and then they're standing on the pitch 5 minutes in and they take a bit of a lull and they can hardly move. They couldn't walk out of your road because they've got all this sugar that their body didn't use. So the body dumped insulin, dropped it all into the system, out of the blood into the system, that you can't use it. It's gone because it was too high and now you've no blood sugar for 10 minutes. So it's about creating that consistency and trying these things, as you say, dry runs. It's about being aware of how you feel, and it's about making that unconscious. That's why you do your dry runs, to practice those mental pathways, that they can catch the ball under pressure, that they can just solo and run and kick. And sometimes they're looking over the bar and sometimes they're not, but they can still get it over the bar because they've done it so many times. You're looking at all to happen automatic. Same with your food. You want to know, I know what I'm eating because that's what I always eat. That's how I always feel, and it's deadly. That in itself gives confidence, which is motivation, which is performance. So you can't just change something new or one thing. In like performance as a multifactorial system. So changing one factor is not going to have an effect.
Thank you, Brandy. Look, it's first class. We're going now a good hour and a half, and serious amount of information now for the boys. Unless Teresa or Owen has anything there.
I might just finish with one question, and you've touched on it, and a lot of talk about balanced diets and that, but I suppose maybe, well, it's targeted a wee bit more towards coaches for that, but I suppose working with players who may have food allergies, who intolerances, maybe looking at, I'm not saying how much information are we giving them and how are we giving it to them, and that sensitivity all around that. If you have any advice there.
If it's an actual allergy, now I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, I can bridge the gap in the middle. So a lot of doctors and dietitians will give you numbers or leaflets. They'll not give you advice as a person. So we're people, athletes are people, the coaches are people, people eat food. So what does it look like on a plate? So if it's an actual allergy, well then it's something that they have to be very serious and aware of. Peanut allergy, for instance. If it's a celiac, well, then it's gluten. I can't give very specific information without specific, context around the question. But if it is something to consider, like gluten's a big thing for people at the minute. Gluten is a protein in wheat that the body can't digest. For someone that's lactose intolerance or maybe dairy, it's lactose intolerance, which is a sugar in milk, which the body can't digest. And it's the lack of enzymes. Lactase is an enzyme that digests lactose. So that creates the allergy because they don't have that enzyme. For some people, it is shellfish, there's mustard, there's so many different, there's 13 common allergens. So it's becoming aware of those and what they're in. For you as coaches, maybe supplying food for people, it's becoming aware of, okay, do I know what gluten is? Do I have any players that have gluten? Or do the players feel comfortable talking about it? So that comes to that team culture. So we talk about poo chats and we talk about breath work and lying down for 5 minutes after training. It's about that team culture that the players, male or female, young or old, are like, well, they're doing this for me to help me improve. And, John is a celiac, so we have to be aware of his gluten. That team culture, you can all help each other. A man doesn't win a match. There's no I in team. It's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. And if you all work together, and the older, more experienced players, even no matter what age you are, there are older players on the team that have a bit more experience. And it's creating that culture that filters down where it's cool to be, I'm focused on performance, which could be lying down breath work. It could be considering John's allergy. It could be, okay, it's conducive to talk about poo or what supplements you're taking or what supplements are good or bad, or maybe we shouldn't take them. I get it. Okay, your man's going to talk to us about nutrition. What do we eat beforehand? Pre-game, what's the best? What supplements? What's going to make me better? And unfortunately, I haven't given you really any of those. There's a lot of it depends. And what about allergies? It depends. I'm here to give you information as to there's so many it depends and there's so many specifics. If you can get your basics in place, all those it depends won't really matter and you'll not need them. If it's specific in an allergy, your coaches have to be aware. The coaches then have to make it conducive that people can talk to them about it. The team has to know that, okay, if someone does have a bit of an issue, it's, let's allow people to talk about it, whatever that issue is. if it's an allergy, and don't make fun of it, that they're afraid to talk about it. And no, I don't want a wrap. Why do you not? No, I just don't want it. And they're never taking that recovery fuel because they've got a gluten intolerance and they don't want to say. So everybody can make that awareness. So if you do have an allergy, do make your coaches and your peers aware of it, and that's completely fine. If the coaches are looking some advice on allergies, I can share on dairy-free protein sources, on gluten and what it is and how to avoid it and the fact that it has. A lot of people think it's a cool weight loss diet that Instagram talks about and the celebrities do, so they avoid gluten. I don't want gluten, that's fine. I'm gluten-free. It's not benefiting them. For someone that's not a celiac, actually taking gluten out of the diet is detrimental, can negate health. But
That's
I don't know
great.
if that answered your question.
No, it's just, I think the general around it is, you know, if players and parents and coaches are all communicating, and if there's a need till, I mean, if we're ordering food for players and there's a celiac or a dairy intolerant, that we know that, and it's very easy to get a substitute there for them,
And
again,
also,
to get the recovery.
For the people then that are maybe not aware that they actually have an allergy, but they feel a bit crappy after certain meals and they don't know why, or they maybe feel a bit crappy in general, because we talked about that chronic inflammation that's festering in the background that never lets you recover properly, and you're always in a bit of a fog and a wee bit bloaty and sore. You don't know why. For those people, it's okay, if there is a team culture of talking about mindfulness and talking about food and talking about poo, and your man's a weirdo, what is he talking about? Me. If you can have your players and the coaches, and it's all open, we're all human beings, we all have needs, wants and desires and fears and anxieties, and we don't want to look stupid, but that's fine. Athletes have that as well. Elite athletes are going through this where they don't want to talk to their teammates, or they maybe don't understand what's wrong. Everybody talking about these things and becoming more aware of them will see signs maybe of eating disorders in young athletes that are losing a lot of weight, not eating enough, and avoiding meal opportunities and recovery sessions. Maybe they're not aware of an allergy, and everybody talking about it, and then they make the connections that, oh, I wonder if I took that. Oh, I actually do have an allergy, and I became aware of it because Teresa was talking about gluten at training one of them nights or a few nights, and then I asked John what gluten was and what it meant and what did he have to do. That's when team works together and everybody improves, because John feels better and performs better, and he's a forward, and Brian is now feeling better and performs better, and he's a back. So there's a better team. Everybody's working together. There's a wee bit of camaraderie there and understanding. I know that's not nutrition, but
No, that's great, Brendan. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Look, thanks, Teresa, for that there. So look, I'm just conscious of the time, Brandy. We've had you talking there for an awful long time, and
you're quite right.
Been constantly going at you there, but it was, I have to say, it was first class information there. I know for the young lads listening, you know, it can be a lot of information all at once, lads. I will drip feed this throughout the course of the year. Obviously, Aidan as manager there, I'll be supplying Aidan and Kieran with information, and we'll drip feed it out. It is a lot of information, understand that, but it's massively important information, boys, towards ultimately being the best you can be and performing to the highest level you can perform at. So I will cut wee bits out of it, lads, even the video we had tonight, and even wee clips of that to maybe remind you down the line of it, and even the slideshow Brandy showed us there. If you do, lads, have any, you know, questions or that maybe you want to send me, when we have somebody like Brandy at our disposal working with the seniors, I can contact, or Teresa or Owen can contact Brandy for a bit of information, and maybe you can, if you would hook up with yourselves just to give you a wee bit of information on a particular area or topic you want discussing. So look, lads, I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to come on to the workshop tonight. I really have to say, Brandy, first class presentation, information. We really appreciate you taking your time out. I know, I'm sure you're flat out busy with it. But
You're right.
that there is first class. I hope, you know, if the boys even leave with 2 or 3 key messages there tonight, I think it'll be a worthwhile night spent.
Well, look, thank you for having me. Thank you for trusting in me to listen to me. Hopefully I haven't just waffled on. I've tried to relay as much information as possible in as simple terms as possible. But just when Sean's talking about key takeaways, the key principles to remember, I'm going to say it again, protein and color in every meal. It's 3 to 5 times a day. It's focus on the basics. It's eat your mum's dinner. Well, I think, I assume so. It's eat real food, eat protein and color, eat fish and meat and yogurt and vegetables and potatoes and rice and pasta and oats and brown bread and wheaten and cottage cheese, and try all these different things, many different colors, because I'm not telling you to do it. Sean's not telling you to do it. Owen and Teresa are not telling you to do it to make fun of you. Elite athletes are doing it. Olympic athletes are doing it. NBA, world boxing, cycling. Everybody is focused on the basics. It's the consistency of the basics. And you are at a stage now where you have more hormones floating around in your system than money can ever buy, ever. You want to maximize that now. What your genetics have given you is better than anything that you can buy in a powder, pill, or potion. What you can do for yourself on a daily basis is better for you than a physio, not to negate physios, than anyone can do for you on a 30-minute session once a month. Physio's great, rehab's great, foam rolling's great, whatever it is, all these things have their place. Chiropractic, all these things are needed, but it's all the wee follow-ups, the information that they give you to do, the 2-minute exercises, the protein and color in every meal, the stretches. Did I get any yellow today in my food? Did I drink water? Did I sleep? Did I lie down for 5 minutes that Sean makes us do after training when I'm training in lockdown and I've trained at 7:30 at night and I've done 10, 50-meter sprints or whatever it is? Did I lie down like Sean normally makes us do, whatever he does? They're doing these things consistently, making it a habit. Habits are formed with repetition. That's what creates performance.
100%. 100%. I think on that, Brendan, you said it better than I would. So, look, again, from Fermanagh GA, we really appreciate you taking the time tonight.
Pleasure.
Appreciate the time of the players, the coaches, the parents, all listening in.